Hey boys and girls, hope you're all doing well. On this video I will be talking about the recent Netflix original movie. It is called Old Guard, or The Old Guard, starring the great Charlize Theron. Now I watched this a few days ago and then I had some problems with my computer, so I've been offline for a few days. So I think what I'm going to do is just talk about this briefly and just give you my overall impressions and, kind of say a few things about it rather than do a full-on review. It went up about a week ago on Netflix, so it's still quite fresh, and if you haven't checked it out, I can give you my verdict and whether you should check it out. And I'm going to start by saying yes, you should. I think this is it's a blast of a movie. It's quite an interesting idea. I know it comes from like a comic book originally, and I think people who have read the comic book say this is pretty faithful to it. It's sort of done it some sort of justice. So I'll try not to give away too many spoilers actually, but I'll just say then the plot is then Charlize Theron leads a group of kind of special warriors, or super soldiers might be a term if I'm thinking of something like the X-Files, and her name is Andy, and she's kind of been out of the game for about a year now, and there's something in her past, and her along with her team are called back in by a character played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, Oscar nominated Chiwetel Ejiofor, and he asks them to come back and rescue this girl who supposedly has been kidnapped in the South Sudan. And so they get called back in for another mission. So classic sort of set up in a way for an action type movie. And Ejiofor's character basically is said to have works for the CIA. So it's almost like he's calling in like these outside contractors. But something is afoot, and they find out then when they get to the mission, and then they've kind of been set up, and it's to do with this test. And it's at that point in the film, which actually I didn't realise. I kind of knew the basic plot, but it's revealed that they actually have like this special healing sort of powers, so that they can be like shot so many times. And they've got this special power which basically mean they can heal themselves and they come back alive. And it's like this really insane sort of scene where you can sort of hear like a pin drop after like the bullets have flown. And really, I mean, I'll praise the film for the makeup effects actually. So in this like one sequence where you see them all laying on the ground, and some quite fleshy sort of effects, and then you slowly see them sort of come back together and rise up, and they basically kick some butt. So then they're kind of like targeting Ejiofor. They sort of go after him because he set them up, and we later find out that Ejiofor's character is working for like this new sort of tech company who are also, and they're basically using Theron and her team as experiments. They want to capture them, they want to use their powers, but there is some like another motivation for Ejiofor, which is revealed later on, which I won't say in this video. But we also find out more about the backstory of Theron's Andy and the other sort of warriors, and exactly just some of the past, the background. So there's quite a lot of flashing back and forth, and there's also another one of their kind out there. This character who works for the military, or the Marines, I should say, and Theron early in the movie goes to, like, because she's obviously aware that this Marine has the same sort of powers, so she goes, pardon, to save her, or to bring her with them, because she figures the safest place for her is with us. And obviously this Marine, in like one particular scene, only finds out in that moment then she has these powers. So she's like, what the hell is going on? Because she's basically left for dead, like on a mission, and then she comes back around, and Theron, her character, basically has to go and get her and bring her in. And slowly she starts to find out what's happening, and she slowly kind of warms to being a part of this team, and finding her place in the role. So almost like the theme of being an outsider, classic sort of outsider themes. But yeah, it's a really enjoyable film. It's very good as an action movie. I think one thing to say is, I think in recent years we've sort of seen a return of some of like the old fashioned, the old school throwback type action movies, where there's a lot of physicality to the action scenes. They're almost like dance moves in a way. There's a real art to the way they're put together, but rather than it just being a flashy sort of camera like going back and forth, or just something where it's a whole production, I think it actually feels like an art form, almost like if you're watching like a Bruce Lee style film. It feels like there's like they're really doing what you're seeing in the scene. So I think if you think of things like the John Wick movies or the Mission Impossible movies, I mean, say what you will about Tom Cruise, but he's, as a physical specimen and as someone who really throws himself into those action scenes, he does a great job. He really goes beyond the call of duty, and I think you see in those Mission Impossible movies, you see like the great like practical sort of stunts where they're actually literally doing that, and you feel the physicality. And I think Theron is someone who really inhabits that as well. She's shown a lot of like versatility over her career, but she proved in Atomic Blonde she can be a kick-ass action star. And she's very cool. She's very eye-catching. But in this, it's obviously a slightly darker role than in something like Atomic Blonde. She's got a great look, but she's also very muted, very sort of like subdued at times and controlled. And we're given a great hook actually early in the film, because when she first appears, she immediately, we find out she's been away for a year, which is sort of a great sort of like mystery as well. It makes you wonder, well, why exactly has she been away? What happened in her past? But she also questions the morality of, are we really making a difference? And so you get that over the course of the film, where she actually questions herself. She questions, yeah, are we working for the right people? And I mean, it's almost like that classic sort of thing of evil never stops in a way. The evil keeps coming, and the more we fight it, the more they come. And yeah, ultimately, are we working for the right people? And is what we're doing really making enough of a difference? So I did like how sort of tortured and haunted her character was at times. and I think she really comes across as someone who's got like the weight on the world of her shoulders. So really good performance for Ron. She's very convincing. You've got a strong supporting cast, obviously Chiwetel Ejiofor I mentioned, and you can kind of guess that there's something a bit suspicious about his character. I think he does. I mean, obviously he's done a lot of different roles, but I think he does a lot of times play someone who, at the start of the film, is kind of pulling the rug over your eyes in a way. It's someone where, at first, he sort of claims he's innocent or doing good, but there's something behind that. But he's a really good actor and has been for a very long time. Decent supporting cast, and I really liked how they bonded as a team and the back and forth banter of them, and how each one had the sort of personality. I think it's Theron's film as far as like the lead and how important that lead role is, but each one of them had their own sort of persona and added something a little bit different. Um, as I said, there's some really exciting sort of fight scenes. I mean, I really like the one in the plane actually after Theron, her character has picked up this Marine, and obviously at this stage she's trying to persuade the Marine of who she is and who the Marine is, and so there's this great sort of if I can just give a little spoiler for a moment, there's great because you've got a guy flying the plane and Theron has like dropped off to sleep, and the Marine has like sort of hijacked the plane. He's got a gun pointed to her head, and Theron basically tricks her to get control again, says, like, talks to him in Russian, because he's Russian, and shoots at him. And it turns out to be a trick because she basically said to him, play dead in Russian, so he reacts and pretends to be dead. And that, like, throws the Marine off, and you get this really killer, like, fight back and forth between Theron, her character, and the Marine. So there's some great fight scenes, some really well choreographed fight scenes. It's nicely directed. There's some good pacing. There's some good twists and turns as well. There's a twist with the character of Booker, who's kind of like Andy's like close sort of partner at this point, that they've gone through a lot together. There's an interesting twist with him later on. Actually, the main villain of the piece, which is this guy who runs the tech company and is kind of this mad sort of scientist. He's really good as well. The actor, I think he's very sort of creepy and slimy and quite chilling in a way, but in kind of an everyday sort of way, which I think is the point. He's meant to be this kind of just creepy, everyday sort of just flash sort of tech guy in a way. But yeah, he was good too. Some good location works, and actually the flashbacks didn't bother me that much. I'm normally not a big fan of them jumping back and forth, but they actually worked really well in this movie, and they do add some good depth. There's some good reveals about things that happened in the past. There's some really dark, tragic sort of reveals about Andy's past, and it kind of makes things clear. It makes things make sense when you think about how haunted her character is at times. But I think some of those scenes work better than others. They're not all great knockout of the park type scenes, but they certainly were worthwhile, I think, overall, those flashback scenes. And again, I'm not really going to give any spoilers about that, but it's sort of some interesting like character stuff. I mean, there's something involving like a character who was originally the like one of these warriors, and yeah, there's sort of a twist with what happened to her in the past, and yeah. So there's quite a lot of meat to this film, as well as being like a really exciting action movie. It's not perfect, but I think for what it is, it was really, really good. Some nice direction, and I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, I would recommend it. I would watch it again, and there's definitely the possibility of a sequel when you see how it ends. And I think this is like doing really well on Netflix. I know when I saw the other day, it was number one in the UK, and I think it has been for a couple of days, and it's getting a fair amount of buzz as well. So there's certainly the possibility for sequels, and I would be up for seeing more of this. So enjoyable stuff. I'd recommend checking out The Old Guard, and I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 rating. So there you have it. So that's my review of The Old Guard. If you've already seen the film, then let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you've read the comic books, I would also like to hear from you. How do you think this matches up to the source material? Would you like to see more films of this? So yeah, that's The Old Guard. Let me know your thoughts, like and subscribe as always if you're new to the channel. And there will be more movie reviews coming up soon on the channel. The next one I'm planning is of the horror movie See No Evil 2. So that's the follow-up to the WWE movie starring Kane himself. And this time the Saskia sisters take over. I, of course, did the first See No Evil movie a few months ago, so you can catch that review on the channel, and you can catch my thoughts on the sequel soon to See No Evil 2. And also this week on the TV front, I will be starting my reviews of The X-Files, so I'll be jumping in with a pilot review later in the week. But thanks for listening. See you guys later.